Heather Glogolich is a police captain, educator, domestic violence advocate, and one of New Jersey's most respected voices in public safety and servant leadership. With a career spanning 2 decades, she currently serves as a police captain at the New Jersey Institute of Technology, overseeing patrol operations, emergency services, accreditation, crime analysis, and serving as the agency's domestic violence liaison and LGBTQ liaison. Dr. Glogolich is the president of New Jersey Women of Law Enforcement, a statewide organization dedicated to elevating the presence, recognition, and leadership of women in policing. She's also the owner and CEO of Empowered Policing, where she provides specialized law enforcement training, mentoring, and career development nationwide. Beyond her professional achievements, Heather's story is defined by exceptional courage. As a survivor of domestic violence, she has transformed personal trauma into purpose, becoming a motivational speaker, a victim advocate, and powerful voice for awareness, prevention, and healing. She holds a Doctor of Education in Higher Education with a focus on servant leadership, two master's degrees, including Homeland Security, and bring a unique blend of academic insight, operational excellence, and human-centered leadership to every role she serves. Please join me in welcoming a transformational leader, educator, survivor, and advocate, Dr. Heather Glogolich.
Thank you.
Heather, is there anything that I have not mentioned here that you'd like to note yourself?
Married with 4 kids. I don't know if you said that part. That's probably the most important role I have as a mom, But
Yes.
yeah, no, I think you got it. I coach soccer.
That's good. That's a good thing. And being a mother is a full-time job endlessly.
Sure is.
That sure is. I have my first question here for you. Heather, your law enforcement career spans over 2 decades, from patrol to leadership. What initially inspired you to pursue a career in policing, and how has that purpose evolved over the years?
So I kind of fell into policing. No one in my family ever was an officer or anything that had to do with being a first responder. And I took a class my senior year in high school and just kind of fell in love with the idea that this would change every single day. And I knew that where I grew up, which was Denville, New Jersey, and the police department was so intertwined with the actual community. Back then it had to be, it required that you lived in town, so they were also part of the community, which was really nice. And I just thought it would be great to be a part of making people's days better. And even in their worst moments, I think I always wanted to kind of be a real life superhero. That's how I put it out there. But and that's usually what I say to kids, but in all honesty, it's true, right? We show up when other people don't want to. And I think if I leave a situation better than I found it, then I've done my job. But as I've become more of a leadership type role person within policing, my focus has really turned on helping other people realize that the sacrifice of of becoming a law enforcement officer is worth it, because I don't know if we're getting the same amount of people that want to be in this profession anymore.
Right. Yeah, I understand. That foundation of purpose really sets the stage for how you've led and influenced others in your field. I have another question here. As a captain at NJIT Police Department, you oversee several key units from emergency services to accreditation. What leadership principles guide your approach to managing such diverse teams?
So you sent this question to me, so I wrote things down because I didn't want to forget. Because usually I hit them off, but it really comes down to some of my own personal core values, which are in alignment, obviously, with what law enforcement should be. But I like to say that some of my principles that guide are servant leadership and team care. I very much believe in putting my team first and realizing that they aren't just the job.
Right.
Knowing your people is a key component to successful leadership. You need to know who they are, where they come from, what they know, what they don't know, what motivates them, what keeps them disciplined. So that's something that I really strive for as one of my core values. I really appreciate a culture of inclusion and empowerment. when I came on this job, when I was the rookie, you just shut up and did what you were told. And
Right.
I wasn't necessarily allowed to have an opinion. And even if I did, it was wrong, even if it was right. So I really do try to include people that or surround myself with people that know more about things that I don't know about. I think
Right.
that's the beauty of diversity, right? So many people are so hung up on that diversity word being about black versus white or Hispanic or LGBTQ, and they don't realize that, culture and religion and just even knowledge and life experience are what help us be more diverse. And it really empowers us to be able to serve our community in a way that's a lot different than anyone else that's really just trying to fit everybody in a bubble. Adaptability is huge for me. That's one of my core values, especially with how everything changes so quickly in law enforcement. And most people probably think it doesn't, but we have constant laws and policies and operating procedures that change on a daily basis, along with the technology aspect.
Right.
So, really being able to be adaptable to that is key. Promoting resilience and learning is is big for me. Resilience beyond everything else, probably because of the fact that what we do really does break us down as people. We see about the study says that over a 20-year career, you'll see about 1,200 traumatic incidents as a first responder. When people who are not first responders will maybe see two or three on average. There are definitely people that deal with trauma throughout their lives, but for us, we take on so many other trauma that I feel as though it's really important to understand that resilience component of being a police officer. It helps with mental health. It helps with us being able to de-escalate situations. It helps with us being able to de-escalate ourselves when things get out of control on a scene. And so for me, that resiliency aspect and then learning, constant learning, being a constant learner of all the things is also really, really important as far as like what my leadership principal goal is. Building relationships and community engagement is really big. And then accountability and professionalism. So many people become police officers and they feel like, okay, I'm here. I've got my 20, 25, 30-year career. And they don't realize that it's going to change. And you can't just be a cop and that's it. It can't define you because if it does, someday when it's taken away from you, you don't have anything left. That's
Right.
just who you are. You've lost all the important things in your life that matter. So that component of professionalism and really working towards making it a professional environment, not just a profession, is key for me.
Right. As an extension to that question, because you've mentioned some very key and very important aspects of being a law enforcement officer, the cultural nature of these things, being able to de-escalate issues and stuff like that, that really brings a whole lot of professionalism in the profession. Um, do you think there are folks who enter the profession because of the security job that's embedded in that institution, or do they leave in without leaving a legacy and that doesn't bother them?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Holly. Like, are you, and I want to
No,
make
I'm
sure that I,
saying
right.
some folks might be saying, well, I'm gonna be a police officer, not because they're driven so much by trying to make a difference that much, but they might feel this is a job security institution. They might feel, well, I
Oh,
don't need to leave a legacy behind me to make an impact or anything like that. They just go in there and they do whatever they're told, and then they come out and then that's it. Do you
yeah, and that's fine because they have their purpose too, right?
right,
I will take people as long as they aren't bad humans. I think you can be a good cop, right? No matter what your drive is, because at the end of the day, in order to have that job security, you need to raise the level of your professionalism to make sure that you don't lose that job.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You earned your doctorate in higher education with a focus on servant leadership. How has that philosophy shaped your leadership style in law enforcement?
Whew, well, when I went in for my doctorate, full transparency, I went because I figured my career was at a point where I could retire and I have four kids and they're very expensive. So I figured I would work full time at a college or a university and then give them
Right,
the opportunity to go for free. But what I ended up learning was some things that were more significant to me. Like, it really brought the backbones of policing behind it because you start to learn about things like budgeting and recruitment and retention in different ways and a brand, which most people don't necessarily realize that that's a lot of what we do in many different aspects of, the professional world, whether it's policing or
Right.
higher ed. There's a brand that you need to put out there. And, how does that help us develop? And that servant leadership aspect of it is just that, like, what is servant leadership? It's being driven to serve. And I firmly believe that working alongside my cohort of higher education professionals really expanded my view of how to interact with people, and it got me my job at NJIT because I really understood that there was a different layer of policing that's involved in higher ed. I have a new community every year that comes in, and part of my community leaves every year when they
Right.
hopefully when they graduate, right? Because college is tough these days. So all right, so maybe
Right.
every 5 or 6 years, but it's just different. And with those new communities comes new school of thought, new way of learning, new way of how they want us involved and where they want us
Right.
involved and what they're looking as far as from us. And serving shouldn't necessarily be about what I feel is best for you, although there will be times that happens, right? There's an active
Right.
shooter and I have to do something in order to make you safe. Like, I'm going to do it and not worry about your feelings at that point.
Correct.
For 99% of the things that we are involved in, servant leadership should be at the core of everything because it's about what you need and what I can provide for you. So I really got a different aspect when I went through for my doctorate in regards to that community, the ability to understand what servant leadership was, and really put it into action.
Right. Yeah. That philosophy of service-centered leadership is ties beautifully into your work in empowerment and mentoring. Tell us about empowered policing. What inspired you to launch it, and what impact do you hope to make through this initiative?
Yeah, it really came down to the fact that I did not feel empowered as a police officer. I felt as though I needed to fit in at any cost. I needed to look a certain way and act a certain way. The ability to bring my femininity into it was something that was really hard and intangible for me as I was rising up into my tenure as a police officer. I felt as though I couldn't allow that to be a part of my personality, how I interact. I was always worried if my voice was too high or if I was acting too soft, or maybe I was coming off too hard because of my own insecurities. And so when I put together Empowered Policing, I wanted to be able to coach the next generation of police officers to be able to really grasp onto their own self identity and bring that into policing to make the profession better as a whole. It's to support officers and who they are, and what their goals are and where they want to go, and what they can be, and lead into mentorship and understanding. And again, it really is that foundation of that resilience component.
Yeah, that's very interesting. The idea of empowerment feels especially relevant today.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, it should be.
yeah. We are in an era where data, digital tools, and AI are becoming integral to policing. How do you see technology transforming law enforcement, and what ethical considerations should leaders keep in mind?
I mean, as far as technology is changing so much, I always feel like we're playing catch up to the criminals. Most of our crimes have moved away from property. Well, I shouldn't say that. I should say that, back when I started policing, I didn't have to worry about fraud. I didn't as much. I didn't have to worry about identity theft. I wasn't necessarily worrying about, people's bank accounts being stolen or phone calls being made saying, we've arrested your grandson and we need you to drop money, but they should be in Apple gift cards, right? There's
Right,
or intimidation and harassment through social media. Domestic violence stalking is really hard to prove, but it's so easy to do with the digital fingerprint. And
right.
so it's really enhanced the crimes that are occurring, but also how we have to learn to adapt in order to investigate them. And then, as far as your second question, which was like maintaining trust and transparency, a lot of that has to be it has to be through transparency, it has to be through partnerships, and being able to be articulate in what we're doing and how we're doing it and the methods in which we're doing it. And there's this high standard of accountability on how we're accessing information and how we're utilizing it, it to either gain probable cause for an arrest warrant or be able to enter someone's home, or all these things. And what I've seen really increase a lot because of technology are the crimes that most people don't ever want to know about, and that's like our crimes against children, our internet crimes against children, where children are being abused and trafficked, and that is being sent out over the internet. And so this a child is being re-victimized over and over again, not just in the initial incident where it happens and they're recorded doing something that no child should ever have to be subjected to, but then the fact that it's shared over and over and over and downloaded and all these things, it's trying to get that fingerprint and to follow that, and those things take such a high level of understanding of the technology that we have going on. And then again, IP addresses, whether or not they're using black market and all that, we need so many more people specialized in AI and technology and all of those things. It's really something that's hard to catch up to.
Yes, digital crimes are very something to reckon with. Do you have to face some cybersecurity issues with people committing cyber crimes that your unit over there at times they have to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, even from the quote unquote smallest thing of someone, offering to pay one of our students tuition and then not, but they sent them all the money, right? And when it's overseas, it's hard to get that money back for people.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
really,
Wow.
really, really hard. And you feel bad, right? Because there really
Right.
is only so much that you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's understandable. Um, as a police leader and educator, how do you balance modernization with maintaining trust and transparency in community policing?
uh, there was a time where it started getting into the fact that we could utilize the public to gain information and intelligence, such as, people with ring cameras and things like that. And when that started happening, there was this enhanced mindset of their privacy being invaded. So honestly, it just really comes down to that conversation with our communities and saying, hey, listen, like you can show us what you want to show us. You are not obligated. Like obviously, unless we have a warrant, but say we have, a serious crime that happens on the street and you happen to have a camera right there, we'll request the ability to be able to view it or download it in order to see what's going on. So, when it comes to, that modernization and maintaining like transparency, again, it comes down to communicate. Everything comes down to communication
Yeah.
and a partnership with people, not just being like, hey, I need this, explain the why. And it's kind of one of our mottos at work, especially when people like me tend to get more and when I say like me, I say my age. Being 45 to some might seem very young, but with over 2 decades in this career, like I'm aging out, and there are so many 23, 24 year olds coming into work for
Right.
me or that we're dealing with that I don't operate the same way they do. I didn't learn the same way they do. I
Right.
don't communicate the same way that they do. So, being able to have that open line of communication, we have this phrase that's you can't do the do unless you understand the why. And so it's really helped us evolve into not being such a paramilitary organization where we're like our parents used to be, where it's like, well, because I said so. And now
Right.
it's like, hey, I understand you need to actually understand the steps to do it in
Right.
order to make sure that you do it effectively. It's the same thing when working with the community. And again, it's that diversity component and understanding how people learn, how people understand, how people need it to be applicable to their situation to care enough to want to be a part of it. So that's really the underlying theme that is at everything is communication.
Yeah, that's for sure. Um, you also a certified career coach and field training program leader. What are the biggest challenges officers face today, and how can mentorship help them navigate those pressures?
Yeah, I mean, officers today are under intense scrutiny. And I just, again, it goes back to me wanting to leave this profession better than I found it and to, one, reduce the number of officer suicides. I've known 9 police officers that have killed themselves, but I also
Wow.
see a very high turnover, especially with women in this career, because they're often made to feel as though that they can't be a great mom and a great cop if that's their choice. Like they have to choose one or the other.
Right.
So through career coaching, I'll help build resumes. I'll help them when it comes down to interviewing for tests and how to maybe articulate what they want to say in a way that leadership wants to hear.
Right.
Building on the mission and vision of the agency they're going to be at, how to transition in a supervisory role, because that's the hardest thing is going from a patrol officer to being a supervisor, because you go from being on the same team to leading the team, and your responsibilities just become so different. And I don't think we train our supervisors for that critical shift enough. So being a career coach kind of encompasses all of that, but it's also that work-life balance, right? There's really no such thing as a balance. It's we're constantly imbalanced, but you
Right.
get 100% of your day. So it's like, how are you balancing that in a way that is going to help you be resilient, adapt well, be inclusive of your family, not alienate them, and then also put that self-care aspect into our everyday, because it's so important to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And, my kids know that, like, there are days I have to come first, because if my cup is empty, I can't fill their cup.
Right.
So that's really the foundation of the coaching that I do.
Oh, interesting. Mentorship and growth often stem from personal resilience, which brings us to one of the most potent parts of your story. You've spoken openly about surviving a domestic violence incident in 2008. How did that experience shape your perspective on leadership, empathy, and advocacy?
You know, it was a turning point in my life and in my career, in every aspect of it. I went from being a married mom of two kids who was a police officer to being who lived a pretty private life, to being somebody who was, pushed into the spotlight, even though, victims have this anonymity that are supposed to be maintained. But being a law enforcement officer, the circle is very, very tight. And so everybody knows. Um, you know, I became very resentful towards the criminal justice system. I was angry that, as somebody who chose to uphold the law and took an oath to do so, that the same I didn't feel was being afforded to me as a victim. And so through that evolved my ability to, once the trial was over and my ex-husband had, pleaded guilty and done jail time, and that was now public record, I was able to legally speak about it. It didn't mean it was encouraged by my police department nor other people in my life. And I kind of just stepped forward and I was like, I have to stop realizing, or I believe that I was the only female cop this ever happened to. Like, that's how ignorant I was. I was like, most women cops are like amazing and strong and they know better and they're trained. And here I was, and they were thinking I'm the stupid one. And once I started telling my story, I realized that the statistic of 1 in 3 women experiencing domestic violence in their life that report it isn't just for people that aren't cops. And the more that I talked to both male and female cops, the more I realized that they needed to know that they weren't alone, and they needed to understand how to talk to victims better. So I really engaged police officers in learning how to speak to people better, and realizing that the criminal justice system is just that. It's a justice system for criminals. It's not for victims. And so we are the first line of defense for not just like embracing victims and making them feel better in the moment, but also making them feel like there's hope, because it's a very, very long process when you're a victim of absolutely anything. And when it's personal and it stays with you forever. So a criminal will be held accountable one time for what they did. A victim is held accountable in their own mind for being a victim for pretty much the rest of their life, because of PTSD and triggers and all of these things that they have to go through, whether it's, sharing custody, or whether or not it's walking down a street that triggers a memory, or maybe the smell of something. And so, teaching my cops to walk into a room and be like, hey, tell me what happened today, instead of saying that and turning around and be like, hey, listen, I'm really sorry for what you're going through. And I don't know how you feel right now, but I'm going to probably sit here and seem like I'm very stoic and matter of fact. But that is because I want to make the integrity of this investigation at the highest level it can be. So please understand that while it seems like I don't care, it's not because I don't. It's because I have to maintain a certain, persona when I'm recording or whatever. Like, again, open communication and understanding, and having people understand that, because there's nobody that feels more judged than a victim of a crime. Like, you're going to have people who are criminals lie, lie, lie. You're going to have victims that lie because of self-preservation or because of trauma and they don't remember it. I've had a rape victim who hysterically laughed the entire time she was being interviewed. And it was only 3 hours after she was sexually assaulted. And the guys and I were in the room and we're like, there's no way that I would act like this if this happened to me. And you start to learn that, like, everybody's coping mechanisms are different, and to be to be curious, not judgmental, as I like to take from Ted Lasso, which is one of my favorite shows ever. So
Yeah, that is so true. And these things sometimes are like big time scars on people. Those memories never seem to go away. Something sometimes spark something to trigger that memory to come back, and that could be very painful at times.
yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting though. You now advocate for victims and speak nationally about resilience. What message do you want survivors, especially those in law enforcement, to take away from your story?
That you anybody can be a victim of a crime, but you choose to remain a victim. And it really comes down to mindset and growth and resilience. And that, you can turn your pain into a purpose if that's what you want to do, but you can move forward and that together we can really understand that like you're not alone. And love shouldn't hurt because a lot of what I speak about is advocacy for domestic violence. But yeah, that's, even people in law enforcement, I kind of touched on it already that like no two victims are the same. No two
Exactly.
experiences are the same. People come up to me and be like, "Oh, I was a victim of domestic violence too. It wasn't as bad as yours." And I have to tell them like, "Your trauma is your trauma. That's the worst trauma you've endured. So yeah, it was
Right.
bad." So, people try to downplay their own things. And
Yeah,
I never want to see that. I want people to embrace what they've been through in order to see where they've come.
exactly. Each experience is different because each individual is different. So yeah. Supporting people from within is key though. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
As president of the New Jersey Women in Law Enforcement Organization, um, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a question here.
Okay.
How can law enforcement agencies do more to support officers or staff experiencing domestic violence or personal trauma?
Love this question because New Jersey is honestly doing it better than most. And so I really, really love to talk about this because you've got states like Indiana, which I believe still do not offer mental health services for
Oh,
officers that are covered
really?
under insurance.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, it's unbelievable, but I think New Jersey does a better job than most, but we're just not there. So on a personal note, as far as our agency is concerned, we have numerous resiliency police officers. So they're trained throughout the state to be able to offer resources, act as somebody you can be a confidential person to speak to. Because when you're a victim of something, especially as a law enforcement officer, we still have to carry a gun. And so our mental health has to be at an all-time high all the time, but that's not realistic because we're human
Right.
and we do get sad, we do get angry, we do have to deal with trauma, we do get depressed. But it's always been this thing that nobody could ever talk about because you were worried that you'd get sent for a fit for duty and you'd have your gun taken away and then there's your livelihood. So it was always just like grin and bear it, just deal with it, put it in the back of your mind, like compartmentalize the heck out of what you just saw and go to the next call. And so I think that we're just doing a much better job of realizing that we need debriefing sessions and we need to talk about mental health and we need to pull people in and watch things like, hey, this person never called out sick before and now they're using a lot of sick time. Maybe we pull that person in and instead of it seeming like it's discipline or punitive, we say, hey, listen, like, is there any way we can help you? Is there something going on? And usually those conversations really lead to when people are comfortable enough talking to us about, I'm going through a divorce and I don't have anybody to care for my child on these days that I have custody. So, I have to call out sick or, yeah, that call from 6 years ago, this one kind of, messed with my head a little bit or, you find out all the things just by, again, having that communication barrier broken down and talking to people. So, on an agency wide thing, I think we do a really good job at NJIT. At a statewide, I think that we do better than most states, but there's just still so much work to be done.
Oh, wow, I didn't even know Indiana. I didn't even have that kind of support for law enforcement officers.
Yeah. You have to
Yeah.
pay out of pocket in Indiana if you want mental health services.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Which,
So,
as I don't know if you know this, but in New Jersey, a lot of practitioners are moving to not taking insurance either, just because the cost of insurance and then the payback to them. So, like, that's a really big epidemic with mental health right now is people want the help and they can't get the help. There's not enough therapists. There's not enough people certified in specialties. There's not people that are certified enough in order to do things like EMDR, which was incredible for my resilience with everything I went through. And so, it's just it's this balancing act. And we're very lucky in New Jersey to be one of the few states that has certain doctors that are in state that if your insurance doesn't pay, it doesn't matter. They're still going to work with first responders so they can get the help that they need.
Oh, okay. Wow. So, as an extension to that question, though, is there a number that police officers would be able to call for mental health situations?
Yeah, I mean, everybody always uses the cop to cop, but there's a ton of resources. There's suicide hotlines. There's that new pound one that we always give out. We're actually working on bringing on there's like an app that some agencies can get and I don't use it, but there's a few different ones out there where like
Yes.
if you just push it on your phone and the agency has purchased the rights for every person in the agency to have this resource, you'll immediately get somebody on the phone. And they could be across the country. It could be telehealth. So it's all confidential. So there's like a lot of different ways. But again, every agency in New Jersey is required to have a certified resiliency police officer also. So that person is always there. And they usually try to make it somebody that's at the same rank or lower, or, the chiefs of police have their own people to tap into because you never want to put that on the people that you lead. You kind of need somebody to know who's going through the same stuff that you are.
Yeah. Wow. That's good to know. As president of the New Jersey Women in Law Enforcement Organization, what progress have you seen in gender equity and representation in policing? And what work still needs to be done?
I love this question. So I already alluded to the fact that I feel as though women feel as though they have to make a sacrifice, whether if they want to be a great mom, then they can't be a great cop and vice versa. And I think I've done a decent job of kind of balancing both. It's has not been an easy journey. I've had to sue for gender discrimination, pregnancy discrimination, technically. I had all four babies while I was on the job. So, working alongside New Jersey women in law enforcement, we've made huge strides in the past 5 years. We used to have a conference every year, and there would be like 70 to 100 people. We now have to stop the amount of people that register at 550 to 600. And that's just New Jersey based women in law enforcement. And we do a 2 day conference where we talk about resiliency and we talk about leadership and we talk about self-identity. And so that's really grown as far as our membership. We have almost 1,300 members now in New Jersey women in law enforcement. I work with an incredible team that's very focused on resiliency and in a way that most people probably wouldn't think about, because a lot of us go through postpartum depression on some level, or hormonal changes at a minimum, and having to get back to being in shape right away, sometimes 6 to 8 weeks after we have a baby, because of things such as we might not have worked up enough sick time. We can't afford to go unpaid. If we go unpaid, we lose our medical, or we have to go into Cobra. We don't pay into our pension systems when we're out. There's like all these added things that are gender specific that most people don't even think about. So we've provided an incredible support system. We've become pretty much experts on family medical leave and New Jersey family medical leave in order to help not just human resources personnel, but chiefs of police implement policies and procedures and things within the organization that not just help to recruit women, but to retain women within the career, right? There's so many people talking about recruitment, but there's not enough people focusing on the retaining of the qualified people that they have now. So we've seen a lot of agencies turn around and now they have lactation rooms for their officers when they didn't before. They're giving more lactation breaks. They're allowing them to have extra time to transition back into the role of a full-time police officer. They're designating extra time outside of sick time that is for maternity and paternity leave. We're also really big advocates for men to take paternity leave, which was never a thing before. And now you're seeing men take those 12 weeks to not just bond with their child, but to take care of their significant other. We've
Correct.
pushed really hard for LGBTQ, for fertility rights, for equality amongst same gender couples and what that looks like on whether or not they're using a surrogate, or whether or not they're adopting, or whether or not they're like, well, you're not the mother because you didn't carry, but so how do you take maternity leave? And we've had to walk agencies through that, and we've worked with the attorney general to make it so that every agency in New Jersey, whether they have a female employed or not as a police officer, has to have a maternity policy in place within their agency.
Wow.
We've done a
Is
lot.
there a is there a union that members or police officers or people who are in that institution can go to advocate for them for these situations?
So like like as an individual agency, like where can they go to?
Right. Yeah. Sometimes there could be a union within the agency or something like that, and then they can go to and report situations that they're confronting with
Yeah.
medical care or with whatever it may be.
Yeah, but even most of the time, the union leaders are reaching out to us because they're not 100% sure, right? When you have your first female working in an agency, you've never had an officer that's been pregnant. It's a new road that you have to pave and walk down. And so I really love that there's so many leaders that do reach out to us, whether or not it's chiefs of police or training coordinators or, the heads of the FOP or the PBA, which are the two unions in New Jersey that reach out and be like, hey, how can we help this officer and what can we do and how will family leave work and so on and so forth, and what about modified duty and restrictions and being able to do that. So I think we've helped make a lot of change. There's a lot of work to still be done. I mean, we're never going to feel equal, and we probably put a lot of that on ourselves, but that's because we're not equal. No two people are the same. Claude, you and I are not equal, right? There are things that you are much better at. There are things that I'm better at. There are
Right.
differences between the two of us. That doesn't mean that we all shouldn't be treated fairly. And I think
Right.
that's where those two terms get like really diluted. Like there's equity and then there's fairness.
Right.
And those two are not married to each other. So, we advocate on behalf of the agencies as well when they need help finding out what's equitable or fair for their people.
Wow. Good. You also serve as an LGBTQ liaison at NJIT-PD. What does inclusive leadership mean to you in practice, and how can departments foster a culture of belonging?
It just really means making a space for everybody, right? That's what inclusive leadership, that's what inclusivity is. Especially with our current political climate, there are so many people that feel as though if you have a different opinion, that like we can't even be in the same room and talk. And that frustrates me because no two people are equal. And it's what this country was based on and founded on was, these different sets of beliefs that come together that make us unique. And so for me, it really is just creating an environment where people can feel like their best self and be their true self, whether it's us helping somebody, whether it's me hiring somebody, whether it's us promoting somebody. But I mean, I love to say that we've got one of the most diverse agencies because we do. Um, you know, white men are the minority in my agency, which is interesting to say. And we also have a 30% representation of women, which is one of the highest in the United States. I'm really, really proud of that. We just have this incredible culture that we've created, and I do believe that it's based on an inclusive environment and wanting people to feel like they can be there and not rushing to judgment and understanding that just because that's not the way that I do it doesn't mean it's the wrong way to do it, right? Again, that's a really good leadership principle too, because two people can get to the same goal, but with different ways of getting there. And if you still get to the same goal and it's still the same positive outcome, then why is that other way wrong? It's just not. So inclusivity, especially when it comes to leadership and the culture within an agency or within our community is really, really big to me.
Right. Talking about inclusivity, is there a multicultural presence in your under your supervision or in your unit
Oh
in the
yeah.
agency?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have a Korean man, I have Hispanic women, I have Black women, I have a Hindi male. I mean, like we just have such a beautiful um, mix of people that come together, and like I feel like every time we celebrate a holiday, it's like, oh, we have somebody that identifies within this culture, within this religion, within this thing, and it's so nice to be able to highlight that.
Right.
We have a deaf female who's Hispanic, half Jewish, and she's married to a Black man, and they have a child together. So, like, talk about a beautiful blending of cultures. We just, it's amazing to see, and I've learned so much, especially from my one officer Mia. He's taught me so much about like Hindi and this culture that I really never was entrenched in and didn't really have an opportunity to. So, it's really been incredible to be a part of that.
Right. Any more multicultural environment is always a learning experience for everybody. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
Your background bridges law enforcement and academia. How can higher education programs better prepare future leaders for the realities of policing today?
I think we need a whole overhaul of a criminal justice program. I just, I don't want to hire somebody who has a criminal justice degree anymore. I want somebody who is technologically based or does finance or sociology, psychology, because that's the foundation, right? The foundation of policing with Sir Robert Peel, that's important. That's a good class. But we
Right.
need to build emotional intelligence in people more than we need to do to understand the history of law enforcement. Like understanding where you were is important, but it shouldn't take up your entire career. Forensics, huge. Understanding patterns of behavior, understanding motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic, because that's not just for, building our people and leading our team. It's for investigations, it's for interviews, it's for interrogations, it's understanding normal behavior versus deceptive behavior. And not only will that help to prevent crime, but it'll help to solve crime as well. So I just think it needs to become more of a very holistic approach to law enforcement. I was really beautifully surprised. I went down. I'm going to give a plug to another university right now. I went to West Virginia University this past weekend. My son is looking at colleges, and he gets free tuition at NJIT. But the last thing I want him to do is make a decision based on what he thinks is the right decision for our family and not the right decision for him.
Right.
And I don't know if he'd be happy on campus at NJIT. I don't know if he would feel like that's his home. And that's a lot of time to dedicate to something that you're not going to be driven by and find a purpose. So went down to West Virginia University, and they have an incredible program. And they do have a criminal justice program, but they have like these mock houses that the university owns that does full crime scenes inside. They utilize expired blood from the hospital to do things like blood splatter and pull fingerprints. And they have like an FBI graded lab up in one of their. I was so impressed by how outside the box they were thinking and how, AI can help solve these crimes. And they actually have their students work together on cold cases that are local so they could try to solve them. And like I love seeing that it's moving into that direction, because it means we're going to bring in a whole generation of police officers that are going to be way better than I was when I started, and 100% better than I am now, right? Mixing that diversity aspect comes with that educational aspect as well.
Right, because technology has made some progress beyond where we started. So it makes a big difference for the new generation.
Yeah.
Given your expertise in leadership development, what role do you see digital learning and simulation-based training playing in officer readiness and ethical decision making?
So I was working on a grant with NJIT in order to do a virtual reality kind of training, and we didn't get the grant for it, which I was pretty bummed because I was like really excited about this. They were going to utilize. Now we have virtual training already, right? We go into what we call a FATS machine. It's a firearm training simulator, so we call it FATS, FATS, and it's just a simulator. But there's different scenarios that'll come out on you, and the person behind the computer, like I like to say, the Wizard of Oz, can change the scenarios based on how you're acting and reacting. And so, it's shoot, don't shoot, try to de-escalate, use your words, all those things. What it isn't measuring is your brain waves, your blood pressure, your pulse, your breathing, all the things that, biologically and inside of you is going on that affect, how you work, how your brain works, how you think, how fast you think. And so this grant was going to help us build something where, you'd have like, it would see how your eyes move and how your heart rate fluctuates and all of these things to show like what really gets your heart rate going, like what words are being said to you that change your demeanor. And I just think that that's such a beautiful way to help people realize that, yeah, you're still a human as a cop, but let's help you be a better human in how you act and react, because a lot of our job is reactionary no matter what. And so I think that AI and like any kind of digital learning platform is fantastic. However, that being said, I don't want all of our learning to be on that. Like we have these platforms of learning online that I do not think, now that modality may work really well for people who need to educationally understand information. But on the streets and reacting to certain people, like defensive, I can't, I see no place for anybody to train defensive tactics virtually on a screen, because you're not getting the body pressure. You're not feeling somebody else's body and how they move. You're not feeling your own weight on somebody and how to hold them down and to move around someone. So I think there's a time and a place, but that we can't let go of the tangible aspect of learning as well.
Like, there's a human connection that should always be
Yeah,
attached to the process.
absolutely.
Yeah. Heather, I've held you here for quite a while, questioning you, bombarding you with a lot of questions. I have come to the last one.
Okay.
Finally, looking ahead, what is your vision for the next decade of policing? One that integrates compassion, technology, and community empowerment.
I mean, community empowerment is central, but I honestly, I always say I'm like Sandra Bullock in Miss Congeniality. Like, I just want world
Oh,
peace. Like, that's all I want. I just want world peace. Like, I would love if I did not have a job. If
right.
like my job was just coffee with a cop, or showing up for med calls. Like, if I did not have to worry about crime, I would be so happy. But my vision is to have mentally and emotionally available officers, but also to have mentally and emotionally available community to serve. I want a world where people can coexist without hating each other for different beliefs. I want a world where I'm raising my children and I don't have to be scared about them going to school and worrying about getting shot just for being there. These things are the things that keep me up at night. Like, I often wonder what it'll be like when I'm gone, and the legacy that is in my family and what we're creating. With AI and the things that they're creating, especially, or even just technology. They're doing things with vehicles where, based on a navigation system, it's not going to allow you to go over the speed limit. And that's going to be the same that's true for police officers in their cars too. And there are times we need to go faster, right? I mean, moments matter when we're trying to save a life. And so those are the things that worry me. I'm not going to be around to see any of it. But the future is just, I feel like it's going to be the Jetsons on steroids, with it all coming true. But, my hope is just that this world just gets better, and that we all play a part in doing so, and that hate is reduced, and that the crimes that are happening based on decisions that are out of everybody's control is just something that people take a step back and realize that, like, you die once, but you get to live every day. And how are you living? Like, what impact are you leaving on this world that's beneficial?
Right. That's
So yeah,
correct.
that's how I look ahead.
Now, this is outstanding. That's a powerful way to frame the future. It's rooted in resilience, integrity, and leadership that empowers both officers and communities. That's a good thing. So I guess you guys have a very good relationship with the community that you serve, and that makes a big impact on them feeling secure and feeling as if there's a presence behind them for their own security.
We try to, and I mean, we're in Newark, right? We're in the heart of Newark, and
Right.
we're basically a Newark substation because we're an open campus and we push crime out. And so for me, it's like, we're not just campus cops. And a lot of people came to it as a stepping stone to get
Right.
into a real police department. So it's been this beautiful transformation over the past 2.5 years since I've been there, where my cops feel like cops. And I mean, like, they're working with the actual community in Newark to make it a better place, and not to just relocate them, right? And that's, you see all these developments going up, and I've really grown to love Newark. I love the culture. I love the diversity. I love the food. The food is the best. But when you look at things and the pressures that the economy and politics and government have put on underserved communities like Newark, like Camden, they're the only two places in New Jersey that have waste facilities as big as they have. I mean, Brick City, it's called Brick City because 85% of it is made up of concrete and blacktop. There
Yeah.
isn't the ability to have the sewer systems, rid stuff when it rains. And so for me, serving the community is so much more than fighting crime and deterring crime. It's about really making people feel as though that we're there and that they have someone to call that will help them. And I think we've done a really good job of that.
Right. I understand Rutgers and NJIT do have programs together um, in terms of school, but do you guys collaborate with the let's say in your case you're the captain police there. I'm at NJIT, but you also collaborate with the captain police at Rutgers, correct? No?
He's deputy chief now, but yeah, Mike is actually of Newark. So they have three campuses. So there's different
Yeah.
chiefs,
The
captains,
one in
deputy
Newark.
chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, Mike Schollers is a good friend of mine. We went through command and leadership together. And I just, we really do. And they're housing some of our students this year as we redo a hall. So there has to be that communication and that cooperation between each other. There's enhanced relationships that we need, right? And it always should be that way. We'll do DWI patrols together. We'll do DWI checkpoints together. We'll solve crimes together, because if it's happening on our campus, it's happening on their campus.
Right.
And so our
Yeah.
detective bureaus work really hand in hand together. Plus our kids party together, right? Like that's just what it is. Like they don't have a frat row over at Rutgers in Newark, but we have a frat row and we have a Greek way. So where do you think everybody's coming from? Montclair, Rutgers, Seton Hall, they're all coming to NJIT. So,
Right.
don't discount the quote unquote nerds at NJIT, because they can party and we bring everybody here. So I see a lot of our collaboration there and making sure they're safe, especially on MLK. Like, that's not a great part of town. And it's also really dangerous to walk around because of the way the cars drive down that street. So,
Yeah.
we're out there every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night with them, making sure that everybody's protected. We're not harassing students. We're there to make sure everybody's good to go. And make sure that if they have to cross the street, they don't have to worry about it. So yeah, collaboration is key.
Yeah. Yeah, I could imagine that because the proximity of those two schools, it's only fair that you guys work together because you guys are so close to each other. So
Yeah.
I could imagine.
And
Yeah.
Essex County Community College too. So we
Right.
work with
Or
them too.
Essex too, right? Because
Yeah.
it's right next door.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Um, Heather, I'm gonna open the floor for you to get a few questions before
Okay.
we conclude. So you have talked so much about some very interesting stuff here that I myself, I can attest to that I didn't know a lot about this area of law enforcement. So that's really good to know. So please ask questions if you do have any for Heather.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sure.
Um, have you arrested someone before?
Oh, lots of people. Lots and lots of people over 20 years, more than I can even count.
Yes, when people do bad stuff, it's only fair to take them out of society real quickly before they cause more damage.
Yes, absolutely. And it's also an education thing too, right? I've had a lot of people where I've arrested them and I've been able to treat them with compassion and then give them options. I mean, I don't really think people choose to be criminals for the most part. I think sometimes it's a victim of their circumstances, whether it's how they were raised, how they weren't raised, where they grew up, what opportunities they had, what education they were able to be a part of. And so, we have a very large homeless community. So, we arrested one man that, why do we keep arresting you for trespassing? And it's because of multiple reasons. So we were able to, once we understood the why, right, we were able to do the do.
Right.
And we were able to help him get his documents and all these things where he was able to get housing and education and things like that. So, arresting people for me, isn't always it is always about holding people accountable.
Right.
Like we have to hold ourselves accountable. But, and, obviously justice for victims, but it's an opportunity for growth.
Yeah, because sometimes people might not have the resources they need in order for them to know and to be aware of the things that they weren't supposed to keep doing. So yes,
Yeah.
that's a good thing when you guys come in and set the record straight for them. Is there a detention center at the school where you guys are based?
We have a holding room. But then
Okay.
if they get released, they get released. And if they don't get released, we just take them to Essex County Jail.
Oh, okay. So it's not some place where people can just sleep over or stay over.
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Any? Okay.
Yeah, actually, I do have I have
Yes.
a question and a comment as well. Miss Glogolich?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Oh,
perfect.
okay, wonderful. So in listening to you, something kind of stood out for me, uh, because you said that this person came in, she was giggling, right, about a situation, and you felt that that's not how people behave, or that's not how you would behave, right, under these circumstances. And I just feel like, of course, as a human being, right, you're going to use your own experiences and what you think, how you think you would react under certain situations when you're questioning someone. But I just want to say that there's a difference between what we think we would do and what we actually do when we are in that situation,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah.
And so when that person comes to us, right, uh, they're not telling us what they think they would do. They're telling us what happened, or we're seeing their behavior under those circumstances. So to me, it doesn't seem strange that a person would be giggling because I believe they're reacting from shock,
Yeah,
right?
and again, that was such a great I was very early on in my career that I had interviewed this girl, and so for me, I had never seen that. I'd seen, unfortunately, a lot of victims of crimes, and they're usually crying, they're in shock, they're not talking, they're mute, they were hard to write. Those are the, I hate to say normal, but those are a little bit more of what we see. And when she was like laughing and giggling, I was very taken aback. Now, I didn't treat her any differently or any of that, but it was such a good learning moment for me and self-reflective for me and the officers I was with. And we were like, and actually a couple months later, I thanked her. After some of the trial was over, I was like, I learned something because of you, because of how you reacted. And she walked out of there. She's like, I normally don't even bring this part up, but when she walked out of there, she actually thanked me because she said she didn't know how to control herself, and that because I had been there, she felt comfortable and like she felt believed, right? And that's what we want. We want people to feel believed. So no, I 1,000% agree with you. It was a beautiful learning experience for me, but that's kind of why I advocate for that emotional intelligence aspect. Like, and that's why we actually teach that now when we do interview and interrogation, right in the police academy. Like, you can't expect someone to react a certain way because everyone will react differently.
Right. And the other thing I wanted to say also is that, um, especially for women, right? I know a lot of studies are done and they are based on how men react, right? It's a man's world.
Not
A lot of
anymore.
times, not anymore. Well, I hope it's being changed. A lot of times, how women respond are not taken into consideration or seriously, because especially when dealing with domestic violence, which
Mm,
is so prevalent
yeah.
uh, for women, it's just the numbers are staggering. Uh, it's coming from the worst place because it's coming from the people you trust the most, a lover, a husband, stuff like that. And sometimes also it's not like when it happens, it's like that the people have a history of that violence. You know, a person could be with someone for 15, 20 years, and then boom, one day the violence pops up. So for women, also one of the things that I've observed is that a lot of women don't report these things when they first happen. There's a long period of process that goes through their heads where men would react very quickly. And first of all, they don't feel secure, they don't feel protected enough to even go to family members or to talk to friends or even to talk to police officers. They don't feel secure. A lot of time, the question is, well, what did you do? Which makes them doesn't make puts them at ease to talk. And I know that some people have spent years keeping that secret for somebody who has done something terrible to them, not coming out. And sometimes it takes that long for the mind to process these things.
Mhm.
And oftentimes, where I think we've been programmed to think that people react right away when something bad like that has been done to them. But in fact, it's not necessarily so.
No,
Uh,
especially with domestic violence. It never is because you never really see the first acts and you never really, because it doesn't just all of a sudden go from a great relationship to a bad immediately. It's this slow grooming process of a victim. And and that's where the education aspect and why I'm such a huge advocate about it, because nobody knew I was going through it until my ex-husband almost killed me. So, and that's when I finally came forward, because I was embarrassed, and I was going to be the first person to get divorced in my family. There were all these things that held me back. Like, I shouldn't be allowing this. So yeah, no, everybody reacts and acts differently. And I mean, even certain women react differently. Like, I've had friends that as soon as someone showed that they were controlling, she immediately was like, "Nope, not me. No,
Right.
sorry, see you."
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a different temperament for each
Yep.
for each person. Uh and I just feel like a lot of people, even when they are no longer in a relationship with the person, they are still scared. That person, the emotional, so they don't sometimes they are scared. They are more scared to go and talk about it than, so they are protecting the very person who has, because they feel that's the way they are protecting themselves. But anyway, so to get to my question, okay, I'm taking already too much of your time. um to get to my question is that I have a friend of mine who has gone through domestic violence, and this links to what I was just saying, where she has just recently confided in me that this happened, and this has happened decades ago, and she's not sure what to do. And I think she went to the police, and there wasn't much help there. The person that did this terrible thing, it has to do with SA, that
Mhm.
has this terrible thing, doesn't even live in the estate, state anymore. Uh, and she feels that like there's nothing she can do. Like, so I was wondering, what steps could a person like that do to get some kind of I don't know, justice?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many variables that I don't know, that I can't really fully answer this question. If this person is safe now, and there's no interaction with the person that did anything, then there's, you know, unfortunately, depending on how much time has passed and what it is, and depending on what state they're in and what actually happened, and then there's the statute of limitations. But at a very minimum, they can make a police report. And I find people don't necessarily want to, because they're like, they're not bothering me now anymore. At least I have that and I stay there. But probably a conversation for off here, because there's just so many questions to ask, so I could guide you in the right direction, if that makes
Right.
sense.
They're not, well, the thing, the way she tells me about it, they are no longer bothering her now. He's no longer bothering her now, but
Yeah.
the scars are still
Yeah.
there. So in a way, the person is not physically there in her
Yeah.
space, but
Mentally.
he is still,
Yeah.
the result of it, she has, she has to live with the pain of what happened, and it's very physical.
Yeah.
She told me that she deals with the very physical pain, that it's not just in her head, it's not like a memory of what happened, but it's physically she's still affected by it, where
Yeah.
with tripping.
Completely
So
understand.
yeah.
I had my own physical post-traumatic stress that I dealt with. I'm along with the emotional, and I handled that with a therapist. And then I started doing jujitsu, which helped with the physical aspect of the trauma resiliency. But do you say your name, Jinu?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Claude, can you give Janu my email? Actually, you know what? I will just
Uh,
put it in the chat.
oh, okay.
Everybody can have it. And then this is definitely something offline that I would be able to get you resources for him or for her, and kind of put her on the right track. But that's my email for anybody that needs it, specifically to help with this situation. I just have more questions, and I don't want to take up everybody else's time with something that I could help
It's
you
in
out.
Heather's email is in the chat. It's heather@empoweredpolicing.com. So please make a note of that, or you can copy and paste it and save it. But that's her email address.
Thank you. Thank you for answering my question. I will forward that to her.
Amazing presentation, Heather. Just learned a lot from you and your journey as a leader and as a woman in police work. If you could redesign one aspect of policing culture to better support all officers, what do you think that would look like?
Hmm. more funding for education and training.
Yeah, I really liked what you had to say about the psychology, more de-escalation, more conversation training. I think that's important in anything. I work for a college myself, and even just in any career, I think that those are key aspects that are kind of overlooked in any career, is that ability to communicate well and de-escalate and see people with different ways that they approach problems and situations.
Yeah, I mean, when everybody calls for defunding the police, the only people that hurt more than anyone is our community that we serve. We actually need more funding because we need more police officers to cover our minimums in order to be able to send officers to more training. Otherwise, it's like
Right.
just working all the time and they're not getting the opportunity. We don't have the funding to pay to send them to training. Training isn't cheap. I mean, I now work with our budget, and I mean, we are putting together an emergency services unit, and it's costing me like $50,000 out of my budget to get us trained in things like mental health resiliency for our people, suicide response, all the things that are really going to help our students on a whole nother level. But like training us to be at a part where, because obviously liability is a big thing, it's expensive. So yeah, if I could do one thing, it would be to increase minimum manpower for absolutely everybody in order to serve and protect better, and to increase funding for education and training.
Love it. Thank you.
And thank you for your words. That was nice.
Anyone else?
All right.
Heather, that was such an excellent presentation here. I have a little conclusion that I had written here in anticipation of this. I knew this was going to be great.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your leadership, wisdom, and lived experience with us today. Your journey, marked by resilience, service, and purpose, reminds us that authentic leadership is not about authority, but about lifting others, confronting hard truths, and building safer communities through compassion and courage. Your work as a police captain, educator, advocate, and president of New Jersey Women in Law Enforcement continues to shape the future of policing in profound ways, from strengthening agencies' culture to supporting survivors, to empowering officers nationwide through your work with empowered policing. You embody what it means to lead with both strength and heart. Here at the Cyber Clinic podcast, where we explore how innovation, humanity, and modern challenges intersect, your voice stands as a potent reminder that the most impactful advancements begin with people who are willing to stand up, speak out, and serve others. Thank you for inspiring us listeners and for inspiring our listeners, and for your unwavering commitment to protecting, educating, and empowering communities. It has been an honor having you with us today, and you have made a great impact, and your the information that you provide us here will make a very big impact. This will be shared, this will be posted on my website. I will send it to you. You'll see it for yourself. You are free to share it with others. What I would ask you, Heather, would be maybe one day you could be part of the audience as well, just like Chris is today. She was our last guest speaker the last time alongside Dr. Rikers. So we would be happy to have you along next time around. I'll just send you an email or maybe send you something to show that. And
Love that.
since NJIT is still my school, maybe one day I can stop by just to say and wave bye.
Absolutely. I would love that.
Yes. And thank you so much. And thank you, the audience. And I shall see you again on Saturday. On Saturday, we have one guest speaker, and on Sunday, we also have another guest speaker. They're very interesting guest speakers, just like you today, just like Chris and Dr. Rikers and the previous ones. Every single guest speaker on here are distinguished, and they are well suited for the presentations that they are giving. So thank you so much, and we look forward to having you again, seeing you again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.